If you like to make your NFL games a little bit more interesting, you've come to the right place. It's the Even Money Podcast with Ross Tucker and Steve Fezzik.
Yeah, Vegas, baby. Vegas. It is the Even Money Podcast. We are, of course, presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm Ross Tucker, former NFL offensive lineman, 5 teams, 7 years. Get a chance to call NFL and college games for CBS and Westwood One on the radio, which is a blast. Got a bunch of different podcasts. Thought Brandon Graham, who officially retired yesterday, or at least was officially placed on the reserve retired list, was excellent on yesterday's Ross Tucker football podcast. Certainly you want to check out the College Draft podcast because before you know it, we'll be making all of our bets on the college football games every week. And then the Fantasy Feast podcast right now, if you're into fantasy football, we're doing our best ball rankings. So if you like to play best ball at DraftKings or anywhere else, we're giving you our rankings right now on the Fantasy Feast. This show is considered by many to be the premier NFL betting podcast in the country, which is very cool. I don't know why people love it. They do. It's great. I'm glad they do. You know who I am, the former player turned broadcaster. The star of the show is Steve Fezzik at Fezzik Sports on social media. A little bit of a different episode this week. Now, next week, hopefully, by the way, you listened or watched the shows with Warren Sharp the last 2 weeks. YouTube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. Warren Sharp was excellent on the schedule stuff. And so I think starting next week, we'll dive into some of Steve's week 1 bets and then some of his other bets that we get to his games of the year, as he calls it, on a weekly basis as Steve gets that highlighter out and starts to go through and look at some of the real rest disparity situations, bad spots that Warren told us about or Warren has given us a heads up on. So looking forward to that next week. Today, though, kind of a hodgepodge. I feel like we rarely do this, Steve. Hopefully we'll get to some NFL, UFL, CFL, some football stuff later. But we got the NHL final. Stanley Cup Finals starts tomorrow night. The NBA Finals start Thursday night. So I guess we should start there. What is this thing I saw, by the way, on social media where you're like number 1 in this VSiN basketball competition? What is that thing?
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. So Vegas Sports and Information Network partnered up with Killer Sports. They had 15 people to all competing for first prize, I think is $3,500 in an NBA challenge. And some questioned whether I belong. Because the NBA is not my number 1 sport but I've had great, results with it the last 4 years. And here we are, 3 games to go, and I'm sitting in first place. So knock on wood, let's see if I can bring this sucker home. And I did pledge all my winnings in that contest to the room attendants at Circa, because I feel they're the hardest working, most underappreciated employees in Las Vegas. Always tip your room attendant. Think about what she's cleaning up for you.
Wow. That's amazing, Steve. But wait a minute. You don't ever actually stay at Circa, do you?
I don't, because it's an adults only. I love Circa. I'm there all the time. I love Circa Swim.
Yeah, but you live there. You live in Las Vegas.
Well, I do staycations, but because it's adults only, I can't take my son with me. So my wife and I go down there. We watch the fireworks from the 60th floor at the Legacy Club on Friday nights. We go to Barry's downtown. I love Circa Swim, but I never stay there.
Got it. But you have a soft spot in your heart for the room attendants.
Yes, because I feel like people will hand out like $20 bill tips in the nightclubs like crazy. And then they'll check out and not even leave their room attendant $1, and it just drives me crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder what percentage of people tip their room attendant.
It should be 100%. They're the hardest working people in Vegas.
What percent? Oh, you said it should be 100%?
Yes.
So, okay, I got a couple things here. Is it a stipulation in this competition that you have to give the money to charity? Like, why are you doing that? That's part of it?
I just thought it was the right thing to do. I love Derek Stevens and his entire staff and what they've done at Circa. So a way of giving back.
Okay. What do you win if you win it?
I think it's 3,500.
Why are you saying there's only 3 games left when the NBA Finals haven't started yet?
Because the format was you had to make 15 picks in the first round of the playoffs, 10 in the second, 5 in the third, and then 3 in the finals. And I'm 35 picks in, 22 and 13. Been a lot of fun.
Wow. Okay. Well, then how are you looking to bet this NBA Finals between the Oklahoma City Thunder and, of course,
Indiana.
the Indiana Pacers?
Yeah. So, it's interesting. The total is at 231. That is a sky-high total for an NBA Finals. And I am going to make a prediction. If you bet under, the game after any of these games goes over. So let's say game 1 has 240 points scored. And then you go under in game 2, and you go contrarian, and you look to play unders. I think you're going to make money. As far as the sides, I did bet Oklahoma City game 1. But I do feel, the zigzag has been tremendous in these playoffs, meaning if a team loses game 1, they've covered game 2. Whoever wins game 2 then doesn't cover game 3. Ross, this has been almost 66% throughout the NBA playoffs. But because of that, everyone knows that now, and I think the markets are going to overreact to the zigzag. So I might zig where someone might cover game 1. I might bet them again game 2.
Ooh. Well, so a couple different things there. First of all, it feels like almost all the games go over. You sure you want to keep betting NBA Have you been betting NBA unders? Because I feel like most of the NBA games have been going over, right?
They have been more. There have been quite a few overs, but you know what? If you had just done nothing but bet unders after a game went over, you've done just fine. And a good example is this Knicks-Indiana series where there've been plenty of overs, but with a few unders sprinkled in. And historically, if you get late in a series, I don't know if the series is going to go 6 or 7 games, but game 6s and 7s have been phenomenal unders historically, not so much in this playoffs.
And the zigzag theory makes a lot of sense to me, but you're saying because the zigzag has been so good that the books are going to bake it into the lines?
I believe so. So by example, let's say that somehow Indiana won game 1. I think Oklahoma City game 2 is going to go ahead and go through the roof. And instead of being minus 9.25 where it currently is, I think they're going to make it Oklahoma City minus 10.5. Some sky high adjustment.
Got it. Okay. Anything else on the NBA, Steve?
That is it on NBA.
All right. Do you have anything on the NHL Stanley Cup final between Florida and Edmonton again?
Let me preface this by can't name a player in the entire NHL. Of course, I can name some players, but you get the idea. I think Canada is going to win the Cup. And I think Edmonton minus 120 at DraftKings is a good bet. And here's why. Canada hasn't won in over 30 years. Despite that, Edmonton is still favored. Everyone knows Canada never wins the Cup. So because of that, I think the markets are telling you that Edmonton is indeed the choice here. And 2 pretty darn equal teams, I think Edmonton's going to get it.
I like that. I hope they do. I mean, I want Canada to break that drought badly. They deserve it. Playoff hockey is awesome. I was thinking about you, Steve, with, how bad the Rockies have been. You can pretty much just cash that under bet, huh? That I remember we did earlier in the year, maybe it was only a few weeks ago, but there were several really bad MLB teams that you took the under on. How are the other teams doing?
Yeah, so the Rockies, we played under 59, 57, 55, 52, 48. Ross, they're down to 38. So we can cash that. Other bad teams, the White Sox are projected to win 50.5. I've got them under 53.5. The Marlins are trending right around 61.5, so they've been pretty much on their number. Baltimore, we played Baltimore under. They're down to 71, Ross, so they're going under. So, Mott's, more of the same. These MLB teams that have been sucking have continued to suck for the most part.
It's really bad. So those have all been good bets.
Yeah, I love the MLB season wins because what happens is the odds maker says, well, Baltimore is an above 500 team. We're going to project them. So what if they start out poorly? We're going to project them to win more games than they're going to lose the rest of the year. It's just completely wrong. They're anchored to the wrong baseline power rating. The Orioles can't play a lick this year, and they're going to probably go under 71.5.
Ooh, okay. What about some football bets? Because there is some football out there. How about like CFL opening night, Thursday night? Do you have like a CFL guy, Steve? Because I know you can't name a CFL player. So do you have a CFL guy?
I don't even know what country the CFL is in, but I've historically done really well. Some of these guys, I think Ian Cameron, and there's a fellow named McGinnis. There's all these guys that are really good with the CFL. My buddy Leon is from Canada, and he's a CFL expert. And what's interesting, so I've got a subscriber that I interact with, and he's like, he's a CFL expert. He's like, I'm all over Saskatchewan, eh? He's like, they should be a 5-point favorite. And then I talked to my buddy Leon, who goes by the 8 of clubs, the most nondescript card in the deck. He wants to stay under the radar. Well, not so much because I just gave away his name. But he thinks Saskatchewan should be a 5-point favorite. Well, Saskatchewan is currently laying 3.5. Their money line is minus 170. I'll have to look up on a map so I can find them in Canada. It's somewhere in the center of Canada, eh? Saskatchewan, minus 170 is the pick.
I can't believe it's June already, and we're a couple months away from NFL preseason games. Listen, Smirnoff's perfect for the summer, for those preseason games, because Smirnoff, we do game days, even in the off season. Listen, you heard it all season long. The fun doesn't stop now. Smirnoff knows there's no I in football. It's a we thing. Good drinks, good folks. That's what the summer's for, hanging out with family and friends. Grab a bottle of Smirnoff at your local retailer and head to Smirnoff.com. They have some really cool recipes of delicious cocktails perfect for game day. Please drink responsibly. Smirnoff number 21 vodka, distilled from grain, 40% alcohol by volume. The Smirnoff Company, New York, New York. Please not share with anyone under legal drinking age. Love it. All right, so we got CFL opening night. That is interesting that the CFL basically runs over the summer. I guess that's when they have the best weather up there, from now until whenever the Grey Cup is. Usually like October, November, something like that?
Grey Cup's Thanksgiving, I believe. And you're familiar with the term snowplow when you return a kick. Sometimes I think in Canada they use a real snowplow to try to clear the ball carrier. Yes.
Yeah, they don't want to be playing games up there in December, January, February. That's no good. So that makes a lot of sense to me. What about, it's interesting, Steve. You used to have strong opinions on this. We haven't talked about it much, but the last few years we would talk about the spring football leagues because you were pretty passionate about what they should be doing in terms of when they should schedule the games and what the rules should be. And you've done pretty well betting on these spring leagues. It's really interesting because all these spring leagues, Steve, had always just been 1 year and then they folded, or 1 year and it was over. We actually have a combined league, which is what we always wanted, the combination of the XFL and the USFL to the UFL. And they stuck around for a second year, which is what we always wanted. And yet this is the least buzz, the least I've heard about a spring league in years, maybe because it's not new, because people know what it is, but it doesn't really bode very well. I don't know. I guess I'd be surprised if it's back next year at this point. I'm not even following it that closely. So 2 different questions. The first one is just kind of your thoughts on the lack of buzz for the spring league in general?
Well, I was hypercritical of the start date, for the league. I think you got to start it in February. And the reason being, everyone's still loving football. You got that 2 weeks for the Super Bowl, and March Madness hasn't started. So February makes complete sense because people are used to watching football on the weekends then. If you wait till March, which they did, then March Madness kicks in and everybody's filling out their brackets and they're so excited about it. I got to be honest, I've done a terrible job with spring football this year. This has been one of my biggest cash cows. I've had a bad year. I've had a losing year for my clients. And really, I haven't done the work. I mean, I just haven't had the passion or the time. I love baseball. I love following that. And I just haven't been watching the games like I typically do because you have a limited amount of bandwidth. Having said that, we're into the playoffs, and there is a game I like. Birmingham's laying 1.5 against Michigan. I don't understand this line at all. People are betting the Michigan Panthers. Birmingham's the better team. They've already beaten Michigan twice. Birmingham just dominated the stats 2 weeks ago, beating Michigan, and Birmingham just beat a team by 30 last week. Birmingham should win the game. I'm laying 1.5.
Why do you think you're not doing as well on the UFL?
I don't think I worked hard enough. I'll throw myself under the bus. I like to say that I'm the consummate professional and I'm putting in the right hours. But you know what? How many sports are we talking about just during this show, Ross? How much bandwidth do I have? I'm 61. I'm not 16, and I have a family. And it's just gotten harder. And I'm afraid to admit it, but I just haven't put in enough time.
Well, that's also because you've been spending so much time getting ready to bet so much money on the Belmont on Saturday, right?
I got to tell you, I was going through my laundry list. I got nothing on the Belmont other than to remind everybody that the guys I know, that the sports bettors that make money in horse racing, bet horse matchups, one horse against another. And that's the way I would encourage you to play. Having said that, we never spoke about the Preakness. I have never seen this journalism horse. You saw the way he was, just involved in a double collision and still managed to win the race. That was the most amazing thing I think that I've ever seen. Second most amazing. The most amazing, go back and watch Secretariat win the Belmont by like 40 lengths. And from 1973, it will send chills through your spine to watch him just blow away and basically lap the field.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. How does it work, Steve, when you pick one horse against the other? There's odds for any one-on-one matchup?
Yeah, so two evenly matched horses are usually minus 115 in each direction. Now think about this. If you're laying minus 115, then you got to be, the house edge there is not 4.5, it's closer to 7%. Well, the house edge, the house takeout on every other bet's 18%. Do you want to get raked 18% or you want to get raked 7%? Clearly, it's the better way to go for most bettors.
That's a really good point. I know we're going to do more of the NFL stuff next week. A lot of your week ones and maybe some week twos that you already have gotten down on. But let's do a little sneak preview. Can you give me one sneak preview for next week, NFL week one bets? Can you give me one that you like right now?
Sure. So let's do basic strategy. Week one, we like divisional dogs in general because they've historically done very well. We also, let's use a theme. We like to bet on a team that was very injured the prior year. So Dr. Chow and his group over at SIC do a great job quantifying numeric teams that really were injured last year. I know that the Carolina Panthers were really high on this list of very injured teams last year. So Carolina is playing a divisional game. They're at Jacksonville. Jacksonville has a very limited home field advantage. And Jacksonville, at most shops, is laying 3, which seems just a little tad high to me. But at DraftKings, the line's 3.5. Plus 3.5, minus 120 on Carolina. Ross, you know I love me plus 3.5. Because so often you can steal a win. 10% of the time, Jacksonville will win this game by exactly 3, which I predict will happen in this game. 23-20, Jacksonville wins. We cash by the hook with Carolina.
Wow. I love that, Steve. Love that. Everything about that. Divisional dogs. I like the injury stuff from sixscore.com and Dr. Chow, Pro Football Doc, always very helpful. You know, the one other football thing I'll say, I don't know if you saw this, Steve. Frank Ragnow retiring for the Lions is a big deal. I mean, that he's like an all-pro center. And for him to retire, I don't know that they were expecting it. They did draft a couple guys, but they're not Frank Ragnow. And here it is in June that he does it. You know, they lost both coordinators, and now they lost their starting center, who's arguably their best offensive lineman. I think I might start fading the Lions, Steve. Maybe for sure early in the year. 2 new coordinators and a new center. You're taking a lot of hits at kind of the brains of the operation. And you've told me before, center's like the 1-0 line position that moves the line a little bit, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know like the Raiders had trouble when like Andre James went down, last year. So underrated position for center. I like your idea, if you're going to fade the Lions, to fade them early because, Warren Sharp did come out and the NFL schedule makers are apparently in bed with the Detroit Lions this year, with Detroit having the most rest advantage games of any other team. So if we're going to bet against these guys with the 2 new coordinators, let's do it early. Green Bay is hosting the Lions as a very modest favorite week 1 or -1.5, lay 105. So you might want to look towards the Packers week 1.
Hope everybody had a terrific weekend. Hopefully drinking Labatt Blue Light. Gosh, I love this promotion they've got going on right now where you get points for every purchase at any store, bar, or stadium. Any size, any product, anywhere you're buying Labatt. I got the fridge. I've got the backpack cooler coming. Buy beer, get gear. Go to rewards.labattusa.com to sign up. Got it. Steve, let's get to the emails because we do get a bunch of people that email for you. As a reminder, we're going to get to, over the next couple months, a bunch of your questions for Steve. Just email me, ross@rosstucker.com. You can put even money in the subject line or ask Steve in the subject line. But if you go ahead and take advantage of any of the sponsors you hear on any of our shows or just the sponsors page at rosstucker.com, you go to the front of the line, which is what happened with Zach. Being in a whole other continent, I never get involved with any of your sponsors, but I was in the world's happiest place, Disney World, with my family, and you wouldn't believe how happy I was to try the fabled Labatt Blue. So Labatt Blue, our number 1 sponsor, Zach from Australia. Anyway, he had a couple questions for you. Regards to teasers and alternate lines. In Australia, we don't have any teaser options available to us, but we do have the ability to choose our own line. If I was to adjust the line by 6 points, it would go to approximately $1.35, parentheses, minus 285, which I could parlay together and get about $1.74 minus 135 odds. Generally, books will give a daily boost for a parlay, which could raise up to around $1.82 minus 122. Is the Aussie teaser worth it at 174? Or should I find the one teaser I like and try to boost it to 182 and possibly bet a teaser each day with the boosted odds pending line movements? Wow, that's confusing.
Not 100% sure whether he's referring to Aussie football or American football, but let me assume it's Aussie football. I followed it enough, Ross. No sport has more variance than Aussie football. 38-point favorites lose all the time straight up. I don't know why. I don't watch it. I can't explain it. But if there ever was a sport to avoid teasing, it would be Aussie football that has no rhyme nor reason. 40-point favorites win by 80. Avoid teasers in Aussie football.
Okay, what if he was talking about NFL football?
You know what? I'm not sure I understood his question well enough other than to say, go read Stanford Wong's Sharp Sports Betting chapter on teasers that really covers all this and explains why we play our basic strategy teasers where we tease through the 3 and the 7.
He said towards the end of college football season, he was looking for teams with the biggest lines, then betting the over. Vols versus UTEP, Clemson versus Wake Forest, for example. Once I found the ones with the biggest lines, I would look into some previous results and a weather forecast. Of the 40 bets I placed, I went 23 wins, 16 losses, and 1 push for an ROI of 11.3%. Is that an approach I could implement for the whole season, or did I just get lucky?
You didn't get lucky. Pulling back the curtain, this has been strong for years where you get a complete mismatch. You get a punching bag against an Ohio State, and the Buckeyes are laying 45, and the total is 51. It is rarely wrong to play over 51, because as much as you think that a Bowling Green isn't going to be able to score against the Buckeyes, it happens way more than you think, Ross. So if you can just get 1 touchdown, think about it, by the underdog, and sometimes they score twice, the game typically flies over. And pulling back the curtain some more, the first half over can be even better. Georgia for years would beat teams 42-0 in the first half, and then the final score would be 49-3.
Love it, Steve. Fantastic. NFL Week 1 bets next week. Good luck, everybody. Hope you guys win some money.
To Even Money. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, and College Draft, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.